In this podcast, we discuss unsolved cases that may be violent in nature in an effort to keep the cases in the public eye and continue the stories of the victims. Those who choose to or choose against participating are not indicative of involvement in any crimes we discuss. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to episode 2 of Tragedy, a true crime podcast. I'm Elisa.
My name is Michael.
And in this episode, we will be sharing an opportunity that we had to speak with Robin Stevens. Robin is the eldest sister of Jody Kilgore, who was the victim of this homicide. And this was an opportunity for us to share with you the impact, very close-up impact that this unsolved homicide has had on the victim's family.
One thing that I found particularly interesting about this interview is, again, how forthcoming she was. And she gave us a really good insight of how it affected her family and how she's really been trying to put a lot forward to get more information regarding this crime and also find out what happened.
And before you listen in, we just want to express our deepest gratitude for Robin and her family and her willingness to be so forthcoming with this conversation with us. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to be speaking with Robin, and Robin is the sister of George Joseph Kilgore. And George, I believe he went by Jody, right? Is that what everybody calls him, Robin?
Yes.
Okay,
we
great.
all knew it was Jody.
Okay, so we will refer to him as Jody, and we're really just here with Robin because we just want to get Robin's story about Jody. We want to hear all about Jody. And help to just get this story out. So thank you for joining us, Robin.
Thank you.
All right. So the big thing we want to start with is just, number one, what's important to know today is, we really appreciate you reaching out to us and, telling your story, but also, we don't have to tell everything today. If something comes up later, we can certainly interject later. You have access to us anytime you want to now as we're kind of developing this podcast. But as a start, let's just tell us about you. What would you like to share?
Well, I'm Jody's oldest sister. And I'm 2 years older than him. And I worked in law enforcement all my life, it seems like. I'm retired, single mom. I adopted my niece's child, and he's 6 years old. So it's kind of rough on this 63-year-old, but that's about it. I do a lot of volunteer work and just love being able to give back to my community.
Awesome. Tell us about law enforcement. What did you do and where did you work?
Well, I started out right out of high school at the Wakulla County Sheriff's Department in 1980, and I worked there. I started out as a records clerk. I was doing warrants and cases, trying to get them served and get people in to take care of their warrants and cases. After that, I became a auxiliary officer, and I became a dispatcher. I worked in dispatch from, I believe it was 81 until 87 when I went, I left Wakulla, excuse me, I left Wakulla County Sheriff's Office and went to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, where I worked, excuse me, I'm sorry, as a duty officer, which is the same as a dispatcher, sort of. We were just not first responders as the Sheriff's Office was.
Gotcha.
We assisted, we provided assistance to local law enforcement as well as other state agencies and the feds.
Okay.
Then I worked there, and then after that, I became a crime intelligence analyst, and I worked in the sex offender and predator unit as an absconder analyst. I was a government analyst, and we worked on we worked with, of course, local, state, and federal agencies to apprehend the sex offender and predators that were not complying with Florida law.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Robin. I'm listening to this, and we're taking notes as well, and I find you fascinating.
This is really interesting.
I had no idea how much law enforcement background you had, so I'm really happy this came up. So that's a pretty amazing background. So
yeah, I retired with 32 years in law enforcement, so I've seen it, heard it, and saw all.
I can imagine, especially when I'm looking at this pedigree here. You know, that's an amazing background. So let's get into Jody. Just talk about Jody. You know, what do you want to tell us about him?
Well, the biggest thing that I want people to know about Jody is just how much he loved helping people. My brother would get out of bed in the middle of the night to go to someone's house to fix their electricity. He had friends, customers and everything that knew that Jody would drop everything and come if they needed him. He was the type that would give you literally the shirt off his back. He was a goofball. He was always coming up. He could come up with some crazy stuff and come back with punchlines and everything. That he was funny, and he, more than anything, he loved kids. Susan, his wife, worked at a pre-K program here in the county, and at times Jody would go by there just to be with the kids, to have fun, and they loved him. I mean, they'd always ask Susan, you know, when's Jody coming back? When's Mr. Jody coming back? And I loved that about him. You know, I hated that my son doesn't know, that he didn't get the chance to know Jody. But I know Jody's smiling down at me because he knew I could never have any kids of my own. But it's just amazing, the man that he was, the father that he was, and just, I mean, I know I make it sound like he was perfect, but he wasn't. None of us are.
Bizarre, yeah.
All of us have our flaws, and there was only one perfect man that walked this earth, and that was Jesus. So and I don't think any of us can live up to that standard. But um, he was a hardworking man. Um, I know him and his partner Toby. Um, they worked long hours, and one thing that I really admired about Jody was his commitment to his job. He believed in standing on his name, and he would never ever cut corners. He um he actually lost a big job because a contractor was cutting corners and wanted Jody to cut corners, and Jody told him, "No, sir." He said, "My name will not go on there. I stand by my work, and I will only use new um, products, and I'm not cutting corners anywhere." And I always admired that about him because he wanted the best for his customers.
Tell us what happened from your perspective, kind of getting into that day, when this tragedy happened.
Well, I was working at that time as a nanny up in Smith Creek, and so I was kind of far off. And the people I was a nanny for came home, and they told me, that we needed to go over to my mom's. My mom actually was out of town when this happened. I think once when she got the call, it was like I think she was in Colorado or something, and they immediately turned around and came back. I did not. I chose to go the next day when my mom was home. I wanted to be there for her, and after the people that I was being a nanny for got off work, they took me. They insisted on taking me over to my mom's,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I just could not believe. I was in denial. I was just kind of numb, and kind of still numb to this day about it, because I can't believe why or what took place. My mom and them went to the sheriff's office that morning, to find out exactly what all took place. The only thing that I was told was that Jody had been murdered in his yard, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, "There's no way." Um, of course, then you start with thinking, who in the world would do something like this to Jody?
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to stop my mind from doing that because I didn't want to get overwhelmed. I wanted to be there for my mom and be strong for her, because I knew that she wouldn't be able to handle this. But the next few days and everything, making arrangements for the funeral and just all that, it just didn't seem real. I mean, I thought, why are we doing this? I just I want to see my brother. I want to talk to him. And sometimes, I stop and think let me just talk to Jody, ask Jody about this, especially when there's electrical problems. I wanted to say, hey, Jody, tell me how to do this. And he'd always tell me, Robin, you don't need to be fooling around with wires that can kill you. And every time I do something that involving electricity, I can hear his voice telling me that over and over.
I can imagine that, yeah.
Yeah, don't be doing that. You don't know how to do that. I told him, I said, we're alike, Jody. I know electrical stuff too. But, he was right. I shouldn't be doing that.
One of the things we wanted to ask about was, we were watching a interview that was done by Katie Kaplan a number of years ago. And there was a statement that you made that made us really curious, where you said Jody didn't seem like himself, or, wasn't going out fishing anymore and was just off. What did you mean by that? What kind of things were you noticing?
Well, him and Susan were having some problems. And it was taking a toll on Jody. He just, I don't know, it's kind of like he just was not interested in anything anymore. I would ask him, when's the last time you went fishing, and he would call me to come get him and take him to pay bills and stuff like that. And I would notice just the difference in him. I knew they were having problems. I knew the stuff around that, but they had gotten back, together and everything, and I thought things were going great, but you never know.
Sure.
I'm sorry, my son just woke up.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
He asked me, "Are you talking to yourself?"
Probably seems like that from his perspective. That's true.
Yeah. But it was unlike him to be down and depressed. And the last time I saw him was at I think it was Caden's birthday party that Sunday. It was either Saturday or Sunday. I'd come home for the birthday party, and there was just so many things that I wish I'd have said.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I know the last words I spoke to him was, "I love you." But it just, I don't know. It just, they let, Susan was ready to go in the middle of the party or towards the end of the party. And, they just left. And that was the last time I saw him. And, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what all was going on with them. Not to get too personal,
No,
but of course nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors anyway. But just the the timing of his death and everything, and all was just kind of, I don't know, it was weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, yeah, I mean, when it comes to behind closed doors, you never know, but the behavior changing was pretty interesting to us when we saw your statement. And of course, we've done lots of just research and public records. And what we found kind of interesting about the case is there's not a lot of people who talk about it that are willing to talk about it. And of course, my question is always, why is that? I think everyone should at least be in the situation where we want to solve and figure out what happened. So, and again, it's one of the reasons we started really reaching out and trying to get people's stories. So it's really interesting. You saw those changes. Definitely some things going on behind the scenes. Maybe that's related. Maybe it's not related. One of the things we found also kind of interesting about the story as we started digging through is there's tons of rumors. There's tons of theories.
Oh, yes.
What do you have any theories? I'm curious your perspective, because again, this interview is about you, not me, and what we found. It's, what theories have you heard, or what theories are you interested in?
Well,
keep in mind,
mainly,
we don't have to talk about anything you're not comfortable with either. I want to respect.
okay. It's hard because you don't want to sound like you're accusing anyone of anything, but I mean, the first thing that popped in my head is, oh Lord, what has Susan done? And that hurt for me to even think that, because I mean, I love Susan. I truly do love her. I did not like her in the beginning, but that's just because I didn't think anybody was good enough for my brother.
I think a lot of people feel that way when it comes to who's dating their brothers and sisters. I know I certainly felt that way with my sisters growing up. I didn't like any of their boyfriends.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I think that being protective older sister,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the best for my brother, and at the time I didn't think Susan Susan was, I mean, they had a lot of great years with the kids, and everything. And then after the kids got up and grown and on their own, I mean, Chet stayed there for a while, going to school and working in Tallahassee. It just seemed to change.
Yeah.
Well, of course, everything pops in your head and you hear things. There was lots of rumors going around. One was, there was a guy that got out of prison early because he had brain cancer, that lived down the road, and somebody had mentioned that Jody and Susan had small dogs, and somebody had mentioned that guy's dog had come into the yard, and Jody told him basically to keep his dog at home because he had little dogs and all. And I don't know, of any other altercations, but there was a theory that maybe the dog came back, Jody got mad and was talking to the guy. I don't know. I've heard so many things. I heard that, it was just a complete stranger that Jody didn't know, that that just showed up in his yard. I do not believe that theory. Um, I Some of the other things that went through my mind is, did his partner Toby, did they get in an argument? Did they were they fighting over things? The business took a hit, and the jobs were few,
Yeah.
and I I that went through my mind. Oh, maybe they were fighting over money, or they were, um, or maybe they were arguing about the business staying afloat or whatever. But um, I don't know. Toby was like a brother to Jody. Um, they were more than business partners. They were friends. They, they had each other's back. And I personally don't think Toby had anything to do with it. He was the one that found Jody. He had gone. Toby worked out a lot and was always in the gym, and he had gone to the gym that morning and come home and took a shower and got ready and everything, and then come and pick Jody up. And that's when he found Jody, and he called 911, just frantically, but I can't wrap my mind around that theory.
Yeah, we've heard about that one too, and we were really struggling with that one. We heard, that Toby was, considered like a prime person that a lot of people considered. And, I'm struggling with, obviously this murder would have been, a little messy in certain regards. And so, and he's the one that called 911. He was the one that was there when the police department or sheriff's department showed up. There would have been a lot of blood evidence on Toby for
Right.
how Jody was murdered. And I just feel like if Toby was truly a suspect, he would have been picked up in a day.
Right.
And so that's one of those theories that we kind of, between Elise and I, we've kind of dismissed, because I'm like, there was so much would have had to have happened for him to clean up, be seen,
Right.
going back and forth, and that the likelihood of that happening is so slim. So
Right.
I can't get my head around that one either. So I'm with you on that. Anything else before we move on?
Well, working in law enforcement and everything, and working on helping the agents on different cases and everything, one of the things that pops in your mind to begin with is, you look at family,
Mhm.
you look at friends, you look at neighbors, and I know I touched um on Susan, and I know the only thing I knew is, if it was her, she was at work.
Yeah.
She had left on a break and actually went to Crawfordville, which was unusual, because she usually just run down to Max Meats and picked up her cigarettes. But I went, and you always hear all these rumors, and I know she got real offended about everybody thinking she had something to do with it. And I can understand her feeling like that, but working in law enforcement, that's the first place you look, you know. And other than that, the only thing I could think of was, did they owe somebody money? Did Susan owe somebody money? And they wanted their money back. And when Jody didn't have the money to give them, did they get an argument, and then, the fight started, and it ended in Jody's death. But I know law enforcement has looked at different things, and it really bugs me that I can't get to the evidence to be able to draw my own conclusions. Working in law enforcement, of course, and being an analyst, you're always digging, so you're always wanting, and I still have that mindset with a lot of things, and I'm just like, oh Lord, please just let me be able to work on this case with these guys, but being family, they don't allow it. So that's real hard for me, because I just want to get in there and see the interviews, because there's a lot of rumors that went around about the interviews, about things that were said, things that came out in the interviews, and I think law enforcement, I don't know if you want me to go into that. Law enforcement made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. I'll just leave it at that.
One thing I wanted to ask about was, obviously when we were doing our research, there was a name that kept coming up, and we wanted to ask you about this person and maybe see if you can help get us in touch with him if you still have a connection to it. His name is Bill Poole.
Yes.
What can you tell us about him, his involvement? I feel like we've read a couple of articles that talked about he was hired as a PI for the Kilgore family. We're assuming that's you. Or Gladys. What can you tell us?
Okay, Bill Poole, I worked with him at the sheriff's office in Wakulla County. He was a deputy there for many years. Then he retired.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And he was good at what he did. He had a passion for law enforcement. He wanted to do things right. He wanted to do I'm not saying we didn't butt heads at times, because he was stubborn. He and stubborn can be good in some senses, but he was a friend. And when this happened, there's a lot of people, a lot of the guys that I work with in Wakulla, that reached out to Mom, to lend their shoulder, basically, and to support us.
Right.
And Mom and Bill got to talking and everything, and he said, he basically said, he'd help us any way he could. Mm-hmm. And that's how it got started. And then my mom, she's like, we just need to hire Bill and let Bill, see if they will let Bill look over everything. She reached out to him, and and he said yes. He said he would jump right on it. And of course, at the time, he he was limited in what they would give him. You know, he wanted to work with the guys and help them out any way he could on the case. But he was limited to what he received. And of course, with the initial investigation, if you read it and I don't know what all was being said, or, we don't have access to any of that.
Right.
And I don't know what Bill read, and of course the conclusion that he drew from what access he had, I told him, I said, there's no way, absolutely no way. You're looking in the wrong direction.
Are you still in touch with Bill at this point?
Yeah. He calls my mom every now and then, just to check in and say hi. He still lives here in the county, and I haven't seen him lately, actually. I'll have to ask Mom if she is still in touch with him. But I know she is, because he's always reaching out, and she'll call him every now and then.
Gotcha.
So just to see how he's doing.
Yeah, we've reached out to Bill ourselves because his name just kept coming up, and I can tell that he's reading our messages, but he doesn't know who we are, so he hasn't reached back out to us.
Right. And that's something I can probably help y'all with.
Well, great. Because again, we're not asking for anyone to say anything they're not comfortable talking about. Our goal here,
right?
It's kind of interesting. The way I'm trying to describe this to people is, we're not performing necessarily an investigation. I just want to tell the story,
right,
from multiple perspectives, and then let people draw their own conclusions. And what I'm hoping comes out of it is someone who's not talking now will say, hey, here's what happened.
I had a lot of ideas about trying to get people to talk.
Yeah.
I never thought of a podcast. I was just thinking, how do we get the public interested in my brother's case? How do we get people talking? We want people to continue talking about Jody.
Right.
I was like, I don't drink, I don't do drugs or anything like that. But I was thinking, I'm willing to go to the bar, and I'm willing to, get the conversation started. I'm willing to, go places, even at, like, of course I got a loud mouth. So, in a restaurant, and just say, that Kilgore case, I keep seeing those signs, and, that's just, I would love for somebody just to say what they think, and everybody's like, Robin, everybody knows you're Jody's sister. They're going to know you're up to something. And, I think because my last name's different, well, no, they're not going to know. Why is the community so closed-lipped about it?
That's been one of the more intriguing things. And if anything, when my wife and I talked about this, it's actually what led us to getting more and more interested, because I just started asking some questions to people that I knew, and I was amazed in how many people would tell me, I don't want to get involved in that, or I don't think I should discuss this. I'm thinking, why aren't we interested in solving this? I mean, and so it was interesting, because I think it was originally said to me that way as a deterrent, but what they didn't realize, it actually made me more interested, because I find it
Yes.
very
Yes.
intriguing that, you know, who are you protecting if that's what's happening? What are you afraid of?
Right.
Wakulla County is one of those counties that everybody knows everybody. And so we're in a
Right.
situation where everybody
And
knows everybody, and we have an unsolved murder that no one wants to talk about. And that to me is, I think it's interesting, but not from a, ooh, cool, interesting. I think it's interesting that it's sad. It's sad that that's
yes,
the perspective, because I want this solved. And so that's the reason.
I do too. And one of the things that I'm
No,
sorry
you're
for
fine. Go ahead.
interrupting,
This,
but
this, this is about you. This
one
isn't
of the
about me.
things one of the things that has really been disheartening is every October, on the day that Jody was murdered, we gather in front of the courthouse, and just to bring awareness, that the case is still unsolved. We have a lot of people that pass by and blow the horns, and and everything. And my mama just begs people to come and be with us, to support us, and I just could not believe that the community, Wakulla County, like you said, used to be close knit. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody loved everybody, and would support people. I remember it, when somebody died in your family, the whole county basically bringing food to you, bringing
Yep.
this and that, and always checking in with you, seeing how you doing, and that has been the biggest thing with me, is like, okay, I know that most of the people that did that were, older, but I'm like, why in the world has it come to the point where people are not supporting each other? I mean, I don't care what color you are, black, white, green, purple. I will, if there's anything I can do to help you, if a loved one was murdered or anything like that, I would want to support
Yeah.
people. I would want to support the family in any way I could, even if it was just showing up. You don't have to have known Jody. You didn't have to know us, but just in general, just come and be there.
Yeah.
We celebrate his birthday every year. People will come to that, but it's, like over the years, I mean, it's, this year makes 11 years, and people have just slacked off. And I thought, where is the community? Where's the community spirit that we used to have, and the concern for one another?
Despite extensive investigations by the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, no arrests have been made and the case remains unsolved. It is the only unsolved homicide in Wakulla County. Authorities continue to seek information from the public to help solve the case. The Kilgore family has been vocal in their pursuit of justice, keeping the case in the public eye and urging anyone with information to come forward. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement has also shared appeals for assistance on social media, emphasizing the importance of community involvement in resolving this case. If you have any information related to George Jody Kilgore's murder, please contact the Wakulla County Sheriff Office, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, or you can call Big Bend Crime Stoppers at 850-574-8477, or you can email us at whokilledgeorgekilgore@gmail.com.